remember this, what's happening here. This is a photographer that just walked into a meeting and wasn't necessarily supposed to be there and had signed no confidentiality agreement. They told him none of the information from our project can find its way into the public eye. Absolutely nothing that we have learned about this project can be revealed to the public because it's potentially damaging to our client. And the client back then was the Port Authority that controlled the buildings. Some of you, he says, have enjoyed 10 years of service on this project for our client. Each of the team leaders have recently received raises and additional benefits. Someone has also received a new assignment. He'll be getting a healthy raise at his new location. I knew this transition would take you by surprise, but there's no other way to handle it. You are all terminated from this project effective immediately. This means you need to clear your desk, and surrender all your files by the end of the day. I will assist you in getting these papers into the archive cabinets so we can give them to the owners for safekeeping. After you sign these forms, we'll have a short recess. You may go to the cafe or to Windows for lunch, but don't leave the building. I want you all to know I'm sad to have to break this news. Your work will not go unnoticed. Each of you has provided an invaluable service, and we are all grateful. Do not think that this action shows any reflection on the exceptional quality of your individual work. This was like a military operation, yet no one in the room knew I didn't work for their firm. So we went to lunch and at around 10:15, where I was able to visit with 3 or 4 of the lesser engineers without oversight from their head honchos. I played it really cool, considering my total ignorance. Each of them was furious. I said things like, "Shame we have to disband. I was looking forward to being here for at least a few months. What do you suppose we have done?" Each in turn revealed. The fact is, we all know that the buildings can't stand safely for over 40 to 60 years. It's not the subsoil, that's granite. They must have received the completed demolition report, which we all knew to expect. It was supposed to be finished months ago. Clearly it looks bad. Well, I'm sure we all know the real implications, that the owners can't get their money back. That's what we all learned today. Thanks. Screw you. I asked, why? What do you mean? He was told it will cost billions to erect the 2 scaffolds to surround both buildings. And that's the only way to take these babies that's the only known way to take these babies down. We literally have to rebuild them and then unbuild them twice. Now it's obvious, bottom line is that the developer will have to sell them soon or take a serious bath. Why are they worried now? They seem really stable architecturally. They are much too big. It's a piece-by-piece operation. They simply can't be imploded. We know of no other way. Why do you think they hired me for 10 years to find other solutions? I'm not a structural specialist, just an architect. I thought Barry said you guys were about to find a solution. I could see that was the wrong thing to say. A slight look of concern spread over their faces until I said, "What's a few more flying buttresses going to cost?" It was a lame jab, but they bought it and everyone relaxed as I pretended to be contemplating my next job interview. I learned that none of them were allowed to be holding other jobs as long as they held these titles, a contract stipulation that had occurred at least 4 years prior. They all griped about the pathetic lunch. "This is horrible. I can't eat here." No one was very relaxed. The more I learned, the more scared I was as I listened for more fascinating inside news. Finally, pushing my luck, I prodded again. "So tell me about the electrolyte issues." Everyone went quiet, but realized they were in deep. They began a patient narrative which was clearly not about to go anywhere, since I think they knew that I knew as much as each of them about the composition and arrangements of these metals. I had effectively blown my cover. Suddenly, just short of 1 hour, a man came back to escort us back to our desk. which had been mostly rifled through or completely boxed and removed. "Again, son, tell me who you are," one of the senior associates asked. "You guys walk ahead," he said, using firm body language to physically indicate that he would be in a position to restrain me at any time. "I'm T.S. Gordon, the official photographer. They were tired of paying Stoller." "Who's Stoller?" I only know of McGrath." "Are you saying you're not with Mr. McGrath's firms?" I said, "Ezra Stoller, the world's greatest at shooting tall buildings. Haven't you seen the great shots up at Emery Roth? McGrath has shot, 6 to 8 photos in 4 years. I sarcastically mused until I began to feel he might arrest me. By the way, Norman's shots were great too, but I felt I had to assert a strong opinion. "You go by Tom, Thomas, or T.S.?" he asked again, looking again at my driver's license. "T.S. I was called to cover the site, not just the buildings. I didn't even need to come in here again for my assignment," I said, carefully backstepping, like I could find my way to the elevator. He grabbed my arm and we proceeded rapidly through the corridors behind the others. "No, you were called in because everyone had to sign off on their part of this entire assignment. You say you work for Barry who?" I responded with the proper name. "He's the one that cuts my checks and I give him all the film." An exaggeration, but I knew Barry was a former project manager and he would be at lunch if they tried to call. "You're not to tell anyone about your employment here ever. Wait here by the windows, all of you with outside affiliations." A couple of guys took their seats by the north window, but I was nervous and I stood with my back to them as I stared down on the unfinished looking ironwork of building number 7, which had just been topped off with the ceremony the day before. "What are you studying?" someone asked. "I can't believe that building is so tall and skinny," and I really couldn't. I had toured number 7, so I was quite curious about the viewing angle. He stood up, evidently very angry, and said quite unpleasantly, "Yeah, good old number 7, the building that never should have been built." The room went silent. His tone was immediately received as a threat by the boss. He separated the three of us and called my contact, Emery Roth, who then acknowledged I was hired to shoot the building. Neither discussed any details, so I was off the hook in a way. He dismissed me and said I was not to talk to any of the other participants on the way out, not ever again. An armed guard escorted me down to the street. Within a few days, I called Ezra Stoller in White Plains, who, speaking about World Trade Center, innocently revealed he wasn't allowed to shoot any more pictures of it. That was a very funny thing to hear him say. No one ever doesn't allow a photographer to get a better shot. I didn't say what had happened to me, only it was very exciting to me to get to follow in his shoes. I thanked him for the friendly phone visit, promised to show him the prints if I got any really good shots. He was very polite and understood my admiration. Based on a true life experience that I had at the World Trade Center, I offer this document now to those who may be searching for key potential motives behind the actions that led to 9/11 attacks. I do not intend to imply that any of the parties that I mentioned here were directly or involved in the coordinated effort to destroy the building. However, it is clear to me, over time, this information would have provided a preeminent, utterly untraceable blueprint of the group that finally engineered the 9/11 attack. And it was originally released in 2003. I printed this in this issue of the magazine. And 1 month later, this is March 2004, 1 month later, I was, well, my phones, all of our phones were tapped in April of 2004. And on the day before, well, maybe a couple of days, Donald Rumsfeld called a meeting. Skipped one day. May 20th, 2004, my phone was tapped and I was almost killed. I believe it was a deliberate attempt on my life because of that magazine that I put out, because of the true face of FEMA that I put out, talking about just such a disaster. And